There's something uniquely eerie about driving at night. The darkness envelops the road, shadows play tricks on the mind, and every sound seems amplified in the silence. While many cherish the tranquility of a nighttime drive, others have encountered horrors that lurk in the shadows, turning the peaceful journey into a nightmare. In this collection, we explore 3 bone-chilling true night drive horror stories that will make you think twice before hitting the road after sunset. From encounters with malevolent entities on desolate highways to eerie encounters with the supernatural, these tales serve as a reminder that the darkness holds secrets best left undisturbed. So buckle up and brace yourself for a journey into the heart of darkness, where the only certainty is fear. Today we will talk about 3 terrifying true night drive horror stories. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. The Phantom Hitchhiker. On a dark and stormy night, Alex found himself driving down a lonely stretch of highway, the rain pounding against the windshield and the wind howling outside. As he rounded a bend in the road, he spotted a figure standing by the side of the highway, a hitchhiker, drenched to the bone and holding out a thumb in desperate need of a ride. Despite the warnings echoing in his mind, Alex pulled over and offered the stranger a lift. The hitchhiker climbed into the back seat, his face obscured by the shadows, and muttered a barely audible thank you before falling silent. As they continued down the road, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over him like a thick fog. The hitchhiker seemed to radiate a cold energy that sent shivers down his spine, and his eyes glowed with an otherworldly light in the darkness of the car. Suddenly, without warning, the hitchhiker let out a blood-curdling scream and disappeared before Alex's eyes, leaving behind nothing but an empty seat and a lingering sense of dread. Terrified, Alex slammed on the brakes and scanned the road ahead, but there was no sign of the hitchhiker, only the howling wind and the pounding rain. Shaken to his core, Alex sped away from the scene, his heart racing with fear and confusion. He tried to convince himself that it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. But deep down, he knew that what he had witnessed was all too real, a ghostly encounter that would haunt him for the rest of his days. 2. The Vanishing Road. As Sarah drove through the countryside on a moonless night, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The road stretched out before her, endless and desolate, with nothing but darkness on either side. But as she rounded a bend in the road, she stumbled upon a sight that chilled her to the bone. The road ahead seemed to vanish into thin air, disappearing into the darkness like a mirage. Confused and disoriented, Sarah slowed to a stop, her heart pounding in her chest as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. But no matter how hard she squinted, the road remained elusive, its edges blending seamlessly into the night. Terrified, Sarah considered turning back, but something compelled her to press on, to unravel the mystery of the vanishing road and uncover the truth behind its eerie disappearance. With trembling hands, she shifted into gear and inched forward, praying that she wasn't driving towards her own demise. As she approached the spot where the road had disappeared, Sarah felt a sudden jolt, a sensation of weightlessness that sent her stomach lurching. In the blink of an eye, she was enveloped in darkness, surrounded by an endless expanse of nothingness. For hours, Sarah drove through the void, her mind swimming with fear and confusion. But just when she thought she couldn't go on any longer, she spotted a glimmer of light in the distance, a faint beacon of hope that promised escape from the darkness. With renewed determination, Sarah gunned the engine and raced towards the light, desperate to break free from the nightmare that had ensnared her. And as she burst through the darkness and into the light of dawn, she knew that she had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, a fate that awaited those who dared to drive the vanishing road. 3. The Haunted Highway. On a misty evening, Mark set out on a road trip to visit his parents in the next town over. As he drove down the deserted highway, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a sensation that grew stronger with each passing mile. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, Mark spotted a figure standing by the side of the road, a woman in a white dress, her hair blowing in the wind and her eyes fixed on him with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. Despite his instincts screaming at him to keep driving, Mark felt compelled to pull over and offer the woman a ride. But as she climbed into the passenger seat, he noticed something off about her. Her skin was deathly pale, her eyes vacant and hollow, and a cold chill seemed to radiate from her very being. Uneasy but determined to be a good Samaritan, Mark struck up a conversation with the woman, trying to ignore the feeling of unease that gnawed at him from within. But as they drove on, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, that the woman beside him was not what she seemed. Suddenly, without warning, the woman let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but an icy chill and a lingering sense of dread. Shocked and terrified, Mark slammed on the brakes and scanned the road ahead, but there was no sign of the woman, only the empty expanse of the haunted highway stretching out before him. Uneasy but determined to be a good Samaritan, Mark struck up a conversation with the woman, trying to ignore the feeling of unease that gnawed at him from within. She spoke in a soft, melodic voice, her words laced with a sense of longing that sent shivers down his spine. As they drove on, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed, that unseen eyes watched their every move from the shadows of the surrounding forest. He glanced nervously at the woman beside him, but she remained eerily calm, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. Suddenly, without warning, the woman let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but an icy chill and a lingering sense of dread. Shocked and terrified, Mark slammed on the brakes and scanned the road ahead, but there was no sign of the woman, only the empty expanse of the haunted highway stretching out before him. Shaken to his core, Mark sped away from the scene, his mind reeling with fear and confusion. He tried to convince himself that it was just a trick of the light, a figment of his imagination. But deep down, he knew that what he had witnessed was all too real, a ghostly encounter that would haunt him for the rest of his days. Shaken to his core, Mark sped away from the scene, his mind reeling with fear and confusion. He tried to convince himself that it was just a trick of the light, a figment of his imagination. But deep down, he knew that what he had witnessed was all too real, a ghostly encounter that would haunt him for the rest of his days. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.